Hey you, welcome to Selfish Me. I'm Cam, a business psychologist and a proud late bloomer who finally stopped living by everyone else's rules. And this is your space to pause, reconnect, and build a life that feels true to you. Because putting yourself first isn't selfish, it's powerful.
Hello, you. This week, exactly 7 years ago, I had my first panic attack. I remember like it was yesterday. I was on a train from Putney to Waterloo, traveling to work with my friend. We worked together. The train was so packed, I felt like a sardine in a jar. I was preparing in my head for a big conversation with my manager about a salary increase and my promotion. I could feel my eyes getting wet. I so desperately did not want to cry on a smelly train. If only I knew that was the beginning of public crying and panic attacks. This week is Mental Health Awareness Week. And every year, when we get here, I go back and reflect on what happened and where I am now. Today, I want to share my experience and also practical tools that help you avoid some of my mistakes. And I wish I had those tools 7 years ago. Now, did you know that 91% of UK adults experience high or extreme levels of pressure or stress in the past year? 1 in 5 workers need time off due to stress-related poor mental health. Women are more likely than men to say workload contributes to their burnout. 1 in 4 working women in the UK feel unable to manage stress and pressure at work. If you're wondering why is this happening, journalist Anne Helen Peterson writes about why we overwork, and it's not just individual choices, it's cultural. We inherited this myth that hard work alone leads to success, that constant productiveness is how you earn your safety, your self-worth, and your place in the world. When you believe all of that, setting boundaries feels impossible. And I believe all of it. Also, I carried a lot of shame for experiencing burnout. I genuinely thought that I wasn't cut out for corporate life, and I was considering changing careers entirely. A lot of my friends and people in my network, when they speak about their experience of burnout, they question themselves and why they did not spot it earlier. And some of them are questioning if it's burnout or if they're just weak. I did too. That's why I want to have this conversation with you. Maybe you just need to hear it's not your fault, you are not weak, you are not alone, and it will get better. Before we go any further, I want to try something with you. We will do a visualization activity. Imagine a house. This house has 5 rooms, and each room represents a part of your well-being. These rooms come from PERMA model created by Martin Seligman, the founder of positive psychology. It's one of the most researched frameworks we have for understanding what it actually means to flourish. And we spoke about PERMA in episode 5. Are you below the happiness poverty? And here's why I'm using it today. Burnout doesn't just make you tired. It quietly empties these rooms one by one until you're living in a house that looks fine from the outside but feels hollow on the inside. Let's walk through your house. The first room is positive emotion. This is the room where joy lives, contentment, gratitude, hope. The warm, good feelings that make you feel sweet. I want you to open that door and look inside. Is it full? Is it bright? Or does it feel empty, dusty, like nobody's been there for a while? Just notice, no judgment. Second room is engagement. This is where flow lives. Those moments where you are so absorbed in something that you lose track of time. A project that excites you, a hobby, a conversation that lights you up. Open that door. What do you find? The third room is relationships. This is the room of connection. Real, nourishing connection with other people. Not just being around others, but feeling genuinely seen by them and seeing them in return. Open the door. Who is in that room? The fourth room is meaning. This is the room where purpose lives. The sense that what you're doing, your work, your role, your daily life, connects to something bigger than just getting through the week. Open that door. What does this room look right now? And the last room, accomplishment. This is the room of progress, not perfection. Progress. The feeling that you're moving forward, growing, building something. That what you do actually counts. Open the door How does it feel inside? Now, take a step back and look at your whole house. 5 rooms. Some might be warm and full, some might be bare. Some might have the lights completely off. Just notice the shape of it. Which room surprised you? Which one made your chest tighten a little? And now inhale and exhale. Slowly open your eyes and come back to me. Just hold on whatever you found it there. Because that picture, that's your internal map. Having those 5 rooms that you can go in and fill in your cup, that's the intention behind it. When I think about my internal state back in 2019, I was not only exhausted, but I was not experiencing joy. I felt detached from my own life. I felt like life was happening to me, and I had no role to play other than to follow its demands. I want to read you a quote from the book called The Trauma of Burnout by Dr. Claire. In burnout, we can feel emotionally blunted, cynical, unsure of ourselves, and detached from the people and activities that used to light us up. Moreover, now traps us in a cycle, believing we will feel calmer and safer if we keep going and come out at the other end. But there is no end, and this thinking pattern just leads to functional decline until, eventually, the brain or body forces a stop for us in the form of physical or mental illness, or both. I don't know about you, but this resonates with me so much. Now I know that my first panic attack was not a sign of weakness, but a sign that it was time to stop and look after myself. I did not see it like that when it happened. If anything, I was so mad at myself, at my body that put me through it. But you know what? I put myself through it. I was the one who ignored the red flags, but I did not know any better back then. So, if you are wondering what the signs of burnout are, let me share them with you. This is based on a research done by clinical psychiatrist Gordon Parker. They created a list of the most frequently reported physical and emotional symptoms. I'll just list them quickly for you. Exhaustion, anxiety, indifference, depression, irritability and anger, sleep disturbance, lack of motivational passion, cognitive problems, impaired performance, becoming asocial, and physical symptoms. The reasons for those common experiences is rooted in our nervous system response to prolonged, persistent stress. Now, when I look at this list, I had 80% of the symptoms, yet I did not realize I was heading towards burnout. I genuinely thought I was strong enough to power through a rough patch. Dr. Claire in her book says that many pressure make it hard for us to listen to the cues of stress in our bodies and take appropriate action. And they can be broadly divided into 2 types, external and internal. I want to focus on the internal. As I share them, have a think if you can relate to any of them. Number 1, perfectionism. Trying to get things just so at the expense of our well-being. People-pleasing. Taking on too much responsibility for the well-being of others, again at your own expense. Number 3, avoidance of negative emotions. A belief that you need to avoid negative feelings because you don't feel equipped to cope with them. Using busyness and work to do so. Again, I relate to all 3 of them. When I read them, I felt seen and understood, especially around the last one, avoidance of negative emotions, because I didn't feel equipped to deal with them. I was worried that if I did acknowledge them, that would break me. That is something I have to work a lot on with my therapist. My burnout did not happen overnight or even over a few months. It was a result of few years of pushing my body and mind to their limits. So what contributed to my burnout? Well, few things. I work and study full time, and it was super tough. After I graduated, my immune system was catching every single bug, stomach bugs, flu, you name it. Then I got my first learning and development job. And I was so desperate to prove myself. I loved my job, and I think partially because of that, I did not set any boundaries. I was working long hours. I was constantly thinking about work. And I thought it showed my dedication and that I am driven. But it also meant my brain was not getting a break. I also started dating someone at work and kept it a secret. I felt super lonely in that relationship. At that stage in my life, I attached my self-worth to work. My whole identity was being an L&D specialist. So when my promotion and salary increase came into question, I felt my identity and who I am as a person, we're being questioned. Also, being part of HR, you always think about others. And I did not think about myself. I thought if I did, that would have been seen as selfish. And here's something that really struck me. Women in leadership are more likely to take on extra staff, the well-being check-ins, the inclusion work, the mentoring, the meditating. Mackenzie calls it the third shift. You've got your paid work, shift number 1, your responsibility at home, shift number 2, and then this invisible layer of emotional labor and organizational citizenship that nobody asks you to do, but everyone expects you to do, shift number 3. And 40% of women leaders say that work isn't even acknowledged in their performance reviews. So if you're exhausting yourself doing it and nobody fully acknowledges and recognizes it, that compounds the exhaustion in a way that's hard to explain until you lived it. Now, I want to share something with you that I genuinely think could change the way you see what's happening to you. It's a 5-stage model that shows how we go from loving what we do to being completely overwhelmed by it. And the reason I think it's so important is because most of us don't realize we are burning until we are already deep in it, until our body or mind does something we can't ignore anymore. In my case, that was panic attacks. I want to caveat that although I find this model super helpful, it can oversimplify burnout. Burnout doesn't always follow a neat line, but as a reflection tool, I think that's incredibly helpful. And it has been to me even now when I review it. All right, so let me share with you the 5 stages. Stage 1, honeymoon. You feel satisfied, driven, and enthusiastic. Energy is good. You are excited about what you're doing, but you're not pacing yourself. And your energy reserves are quietly draining without you noticing it. So you might be saying too many yeses. Stage number 2, onset of stress. The shine wears off, the demands of reality take over. You start feeling like you have too much to do, too little control, and your efforts aren't being recognized. Your body begins reacting with its stress response, but you overlook how stressed you're becoming. You stop tending to your hobbies, social connections, and the boundaries between work and life became blurred. Stage 3, chronic stress. The physical toll kicks in. Tension, urgency, rash decision. You neglect your own needs. You overreact to small things. You might experience anxiety, panic attacks, irritability, or physical symptoms, but you are likely in denial about how bad it's getting. Stage 4, burnout. You've reached burnout, but at first you might not even know it because you are still functioning. Your decisions become less rational, including decision to look after yourself. You start comparing yourself to others and you always look bad. Where you once felt inspired by people, now you just feel inadequate. Stage 5, habitual burnout. Everything intensifies. Your body stops whispering and starts shouting. Palpitation, numbness, depression. As Dr. Claire puts in, the elastic band has lost its shape and bounced completely. Or it might be more accurate to say it snapped. Day-to-day functioning breaks down. You feel completely alone with it. And that's it. That's the 5 stages. I personally find this model helpful because I can see where I am. For example, last year I was so excited about my new role and I said yes to way too many things. And at some point after my travels, which was I think around 7 weeks, I was exhausted. It took me weeks to recover. So my learning is that I need to pace myself. Just because I am excited about potential project or partnership with somebody, it doesn't mean I have the space or I will have the energy to do it. And that's okay. So when somebody comes with a super exciting project, I always say, let me just review my current workload and my objectives and I get back to you. It doesn't make you a bad person to say no. It doesn't mean you are not ambitious. It means you are focused on what you need to deliver. So now I want to talk about the things that help me recover through my burnout. And I want to be clear. This is not the full list, by the way. Also, recovery is personal, and what worked for me might look different for you. What matters most is that you take the time to understand your own inner step. And you've already done the first step today by walking through that house visualization at the beginning of our conversation. That's your starting point. Which room was empty? Which one you missing the most? I used PERMA when I was rebuilding my pockets of joy, and it gave me something to aim for that wasn't just feel better. It was specific, it was personal, and when I started doing it more and more, I start feeling like myself again. And that feeling is priceless. Let's go through the practical tips. Number 1, change of scenery. After my first panic attack, I was diagnosed with burnout and secondary depression and anxiety. If you're wondering what secondary means, it means both the depression and the anxiety could have been caused by burnout itself. I took time off from work and went back home to Poland to be with my family. I needed a complete change of settings, and being home surrounded by family and nature helped me ground myself. And there is actually a lot of research showing that being in nature, even something as simple as digging in soil, has a real positive impact on our well-being. So if you have a garden, go out and sit in it. If you don't, find a green spot. Also, support from your family and friends is crucial. Please don't isolate yourself. You can start with one person. Number 2, grounding. If you're feeling overwhelmed, try the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding technique. Notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. It sounds simple, but it brings you right back to your body. And simple, it's good, especially when we feel overwhelmed and we don't have energy. Simple things can make a huge difference. Number 3, values alignment. I made a decision I only work for businesses where my values are aligned with theirs, where I truly believe in what they are trying to do. That matters to me more deeply, and the research backed this up. I also changed jobs. I deliberately took a part-time job after burnout because I knew that if I went straight back into full-time, I would fall into back the exact habits that got me there. I needed to force myself into a different pattern, and that meant a different environment. Also, I could not afford not to work for much longer. So working part-time was my way of supporting myself financially while having time to rest. Number 4, a little calm. Outside of therapy and medication, the thing that helped me most was talking to myself. And I know that sounds strange, but hear me out. I imagine I had little Cam next to me, a younger version of me, the inner child of me. And I would tell her my plan for the day and ask how she feels about it. I would acknowledge her feelings and her needs. I was kind to her, patient, compassionate, things I have never been to myself before. Next, we have inner critic, our favorite. I'm being sarcastic, by the way. And that connects to managing your inner critic, because that voice can be so loud. What I find interesting, speaking from my own experience, is that sometimes that voice doesn't even belong to us. It could be a strict parent, a teacher, or a partner. Simply someone else's words that we've absorbed and started treating as our own. It might help to identify whose voice actually is. What also helped me is being kinder to myself in a small moment. When I do something wrong or not to the standards I want, I simply say, it's okay, that's a good start. Let's have a break and try again. And honestly, I feel different in my body straight away when I do that. Dr. Claire talks about the misconception that self-compassion makes us weak, but the science shows the exact opposite. Self-compassion proves our ability to regulate our nervous system and cope with stress. It actually strengthens our capacity to pick ourselves after setback and reach our long-term goals. So being gentle with yourself isn't soft, it's strategic. Next, give yourself time. I want to be honest about timelines. My biggest misconception about burnout was that I would recover within a few months. I set myself a deadline. Can you imagine? I personally did not achieve that deadline of 6 months. I had panic attacks for over a year. At first, they were terrifying. With time, I learned what was happening and what I needed to feel better. So please give yourself time. Don't rush back. I know it feels like any break from your job will impact your career, but honestly, what is 3 or 6 months on a 5 or 10 year scale? It's nothing. And going back too early costs you more in the long run. And next, we have boundaries. Something that I didn't have it a few years ago, and I didn't fully understand what they are, and took me a while to learn. Now I am much better at setting them. I don't work outside of my hours unless it's a true emergency, and if I do, I take that time back. But here's the thing, keeping boundaries requires you to first know what your boundaries are. We talk about this in one of our episodes on trusting yourself. Also, I ask for help now. I take breaks during the day. I know my limits. My lunch is booked in my calendar. I have a break at 3 p.m. because that's when I hit the wall. And I protect those times because I have learned the hard way what happens when I don't. Last one, and it's super easy. Movement, any type of movement, a simple walk, a simple stretch, tapping your body, that helps. One thing that I stick doing throughout my burnout and after and until now, it's yoga. It always helped me to get out of my head and be present in my body and acknowledge what my body needed. Okay, that's my tips for today about recovering from burnout. Also, you can use them to look after your well-being. I hope there's one thing you can take away from this. And I truly hope that you know which room from PERMA activity needs a little bit more attention. Be brave and take first step. I believe in you. Sending lots of love. And until next week, bye.
Thank you so much for listening. It honestly means the world to me. If something from today's chat made you smile, think, or feel seen, share it. That's how our Selfish Me community grows. This podcast is about real voices and reminding each other that we are not alone. We are all figuring out how to do life our way, and you are doing better than you think.